All right, we are live with Tiffany Grant King. Tiffany, thank you for joining us. I'm so
Thank
glad
you
you're
for
here.
having me. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm so glad when we talked about, doing a live together, we were exploring what topics to talk about, and you were actually helping me with the problem. And so we're going to unpack that today. But
okay.
first, I want to make sure that folks who don't know you get at least a little sense of who you are. You know, you work in global programs for diversity and inclusion at HP. You are a sister, a wife, a friend, and really a community connector. And so, for folks who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, Tiffany Grant King, hi, excited to be here today. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for the friendship that we have built over the past months, like earlier this
Yeah,
year, and it's been very exciting. So, as she gave my LinkedIn introduction,
yeah.
I'm just a girl from South Carolina who grew up with great parents, great family values, and brought that to California, where I've built my life, my husband and my community. But I've learned and I've seen over time that we have to make sure that we are speaking out for those that can't speak for themselves. So, trials of life come. And sometimes we don't know how to respond to them, and others don't know how to respond to them. But there are those who do. There are those who have the resources, they have the access, and they have the ability to drive and impact change. So that's all that I'm trying to do, even in my work and in my community on a regular basis.
And that's exactly it. And one of the ways we actually met was through your work that you do with Love Never Fails and
Right.
Vanessa Russell and getting connected there. And now you're doing more charity work on top of, you were just talking offline, some of the different, investing and learning and different seminars and things that you've been going to and speaking at.
Right.
So you are a wealth of knowledge on this. And so today we're going to talk about, speaking with it with purpose.
Right. Right.
And I'm so curious because I think we talk about it a lot, but I want to know, what does that mean to you?
Right.
When we
Right.
say speak with purpose, what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
So something you just did, I will call out. So you said
Okay.
the charity work with Love Never Fails. For me, it's not necessarily charity.
Mhm.
It's because we have to care and take care of each other.
Yeah.
We don't exist and move throughout this world alone. We
Right.
can't do it in our own silos, thinking we have our own little bubbles of protection or whatever we want to call it. Like we
Right.
have to depend and care for our neighbors and
Mhm.
depend and care for others that are around us. Being able to see people where they are and where they are, how do we then elevate them to where they desire to be and how we can help support them in achieving that. So that's just like it's kind of like it's in the little details sometimes. It's not, it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to take a stage or a platform, but just in being intentional and about how you're going about approaching it.
And so, where do you really start when you're trying to speak with purpose? Because it seems so big. And it seems, I think in part, it seems so big because at least for me, you feel this pressure to be perfect, to get it right. And so then you feel like you have to learn and know everything. So, I'll put this on you. Where do you start? What do you do?
Just start. I
Mhm.
think it's one to just be present wherever you are. Be present where you are, not where you're trying to get to, not where you're trying to be, not what you're desiring to be, or who you're trying to emulate. Just be
Mhm.
present where you are. Take in the situation, the reality of the situation, and then figure out, okay, if this is not where you want to be, what would you change? What would you do differently? And sometimes that requires you to either do something or you to partner along with someone else in order to get that work done. But continuing to exist in a place where you don't desire to be, it's kind of like letting life pass you by. We only get one.
That's right.
There was a comedian, Dion Cole, and he has this thing in one of his comedy specials around, how many summers do you have left? And you
Mm.
think I like I'm 42 years old. If I live to be 70, I have 28 summers left. So think about it in that way, and then it makes you appreciate the time and how you spend your time and who you spend your time with. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having many more than 28 summers, but
Especially after the one we just had, if I could just say that, do
right.
we get like a bonus summer at some point? Does that any kind of like
Right.
yeah, exactly. I want to point out a couple of things that you said, because I think it's really important that we take a minute and maybe even unpack them a little bit more, which is one, be present. That's so hard. We were just talking about in a different conversation how you were at these events to invest and grow in yourself. And I just recently did a global leadership summit. Same thing. I was writing down notes of everything that I had to do, because for some reason, as I was trying to be in the moment, everything that I've ever had to do, even silly things like the dishes, came to mind, And so one way that I've found to kind of deal with that is to write it down. So I want to unpack what it means to really try to be present. And maybe you have some tools there that we can, use ourselves to get better at that. And then the other thing you said, which I think is probably going to be one of the key takeaways from today, is how many summers do you have? Wow, right? When you really think about that, and then put that in context of how you invest, because it's really an investment, your time,
right?
Right. So where do we start? Let's start with maybe tools of staying present so that we can enjoy those summers, Any guidance there?
Yeah, tools of staying present for me, there are certain I don't do like 3 month, 6 month, 9 month goals.
Okay.
It's kind of like at the end of the day when I go to sleep, what do I would have liked to have accomplished by the end of that day, or at least started on, or had an initial conversation about. So I think there it kind of helps you say, okay, if I don't do X now, Y won't happen, and I can't get mad when the result is Z. So, kind of even looking towards the future, not necessarily planning, but just setting the expectation. You can't say, I want a cake at 6 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock. You have no ingredients. You're not even home. You haven't been to the grocery store, but you still want a cake at 6 o'clock. Like, that's almost impossible. So just kind of doing some forethought and not. And it's almost scary to me when I see people crossing the street and they have their cell phone. They're not even looking up. It's like we're walking zombies. Don't become a zombie and get so in tune into your routine that you don't even have to think. You don't even have to make decisions or challenge yourself around what you're about to do and why you're about to do it. Like, we have to get out of routines are important, but don't become almost very mechanical or robotic. So you want to make sure that you're leaving space and grace in order for some change to happen, some excitement to pop in. If my husband want to take me to dinner, I'm always hungry. So we want to go. So we see what adjustments that we can make. But I think it's about just leaving a little bit of space for life to occur naturally.
Yeah. And you know what, for type A like me, I had a mentor tell me this years ago, and I've applied it across the board in my life. I even, branched out and gave my team an opportunity to do this. He said, if it's not in your calendar, pretend it didn't happen. Where you invest your time is where you're investing your heart. So block it out if it's important to you. And maybe that is, right now, your big rock, your big focus is going to be being more intentional. So block out that chunk of time. And it literally says block in my calendar when I go, no, I need some reflection time. This week's been crazy busy, because I think, to your point, again, just speaking for myself, it can get so busy, and it's so incredibly easy to get wrapped up in, let me just do one more email. Let me just one more. And you said something else about space and grace. And, I think the latter part, we just talked about blocking out the space. You also have to give yourself some grace.
That's right.
I think that's how you, to your point, you just start speaking with purpose. You understand you're not going to get it right.
Right.
You
Right.
understand that there's going to be questions where I'm going to call Tiffany and say, hey, how should I handle this? Am I
Right.
thinking about this properly? Am I using my words intentionally?
Right.
Can you help me with this?
Right. And using your words intentionally, not only for others, but for yourself. And that's the
Mm,
main thing. I know it was recently, a lot of things were going on, conferences, meetings, and I was like, I get 24 hours in the day to live, like in my entire life. Not just my professional life, not just, my personal life, my fitness life, whatever you want. It's my entire life. We all get 24 hours. So unfortunately, I can't give this one thing 20 of it. It's very selfish for it to think that it deserves 20 of it. So,
yes.
how can I make sure I'm creating balance for myself so that I can be happy at the end of it
Yeah. Yeah.
all? Yeah.
That's exactly it. We this is so good. And I think in part because there's new tips and then there's also sort of this reinforcement of some stuff that
Right.
we already know, but it's so easy to forget.
Yeah.
It's just so easy. And again, that's another reason why I physically go through my calendar to say, okay, where can I put those blocks of time?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just
Right.
so easy.
It's amazing. Like this morning, we it popped up on my calendar around mental health.
Mm,
So it's kind of like every month there's some type of mental health, mental awareness theme, and I'm also a Christian, a member of a church in Oakland, California, Memorial Tabernacle Church, and we do different themes throughout the year. And it's on my calendar monthly to kind of check it out to see what those themes are to align with our community partners and
mm,
friends. I might not do that today, but I was reminded about it. So it may be Saturday before I even reach out to any of our partners, but I was reminded. So, like you said, if it's not on your calendar, then it's not important to you. Put it on your calendar, even if you don't do it. You scheduled it for 2 o'clock. You might not do it at 2 on
right,
today, but you may do it at 2 on Saturday. So
right.
make sure it stays top of mind and kind of stays fresh for you as well.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really important. And I think that kind of goes back to the grace, right?
Right. Right.
At least for a personality like mine, I need that. I need to experience that for my own growth.
Right. Right.
I have to just sort of put myself out there. In large part, that's why I started doing these lives because I just
That's
wanted to put it
awesome.
out there,
Right.
and just say, I'm
Right.
going to go live. I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to, change anything. This
Right.
is it. This is the reality, as imperfect as it's going to be. And
Right.
hopefully there's pieces that help empower people to do
Right.
something bigger and better than I could ever do,
It's like having a conversation on the street. You
Yeah.
don't record a conversation you're having with your neighbor on the street and then say, "Oh, let's go back and edit this so
Right.
it's perfect." And what is
Right.
perfect? What is perfection? Who's looking for that? I'm personally not looking for it. I don't know what that looks like in terms of my own life. So I like my flaws. I like my scars. I like the things that I don't do correctly. They're learning opportunities, and I think without those learning opportunities, you limit your opportunities to grow and to stretch yourself and to
Yeah.
be examples to others who may be going through similar experiences. So I
Yeah.
think we always have to make sure we know that maybe somebody else is watching me. So how can I ensure that I'm displaying the reality of what this situation could look like?
Right. And in that, right, you're speaking with purpose, you're challenging your thoughts, you're continually
Right,
to kind of, challenge your own expectations,
right,
reality, knowledge, all of that. Yeah.
right, right,
So we're talking about this in a personal sort of, private life context, but I think this really applies in business too. And I think that's a
definitely.
large part of what I'm hoping these lives really, drive home is that as much as we talk about diversity and inclusion and equity, and you pointed out perfectly earlier, charity or just being a good human,
Mhm.
I think that there's so much benefit to bringing that into business that gets so overlooked. And, like I mentioned earlier, you run global programs for diversity and inclusion at a massive company. So you get a chance to see a perspective that a lot of us really don't, and maybe don't
Mhm.
even understand
Right,
what that really looks like.
right,
So can you help us get an understanding of why is this important and how is it important in a
right,
business context?
right. So It's important because it's what brought me to HP. So I
Mhm.
retired years ago. I don't look that old, but I did. I retired, started my own consulting company, and then there was an opportunity that I learned of at HP, and I said I would never go back into corporate America, you know. But thinking about the voice that HP has had over its 80 plus year history, its mission is to create technology that makes life better for everyone, everywhere.
Mm.
So when you think about everyone everywhere and kind of being a lighthouse or a staple to put in the ground for others to kind of follow an example, I respected the company first and foremost. Then I also respected the chief diversity officer, is actually my manager, Leslie Slayton Brown, and just having those two examples, understanding how they have used their voice to empower people, not only just for having access to technology and having access to good jobs and careers, but just the global aspect of the good that we could do in the world. And I want to be a part of people and things and companies that are using their voice and their power to do good. Can we resolve all of the world's problems and issues? No, but we can have an opinion. We can actually, if we just do 1% of what's needed, then I think that's also vital and important. How are we moving the needle to
Mhm.
make life better and give technology to those everyone, everywhere?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like that's the way I approach it. It's also stretches me because we're a US based company, but we have global employees, global impact. So you're also then learning. You're learning about the cultures. People may want to say Asian, but it is very different between Korea, China, and Japan. It is extremely different. So how
Mhm.
do you learn about those cultures? How do you respect and honor what makes those cultures unique? And then how do you ensure whatever's being communicated, marketed, displayed is actually connecting with that culture in a respectful way in which they feel honored and appreciated. So I think it's like I said, you give a voice to the voiceless. You don't ask, some people don't even ask for things. So
Yeah.
when you speak on their behalf, make sure you're speaking with accuracy and you're
Mm.
speaking with respect.
Yeah. You talk about speaking with purpose, talk about two impactful words, everyone, everywhere.
Hmm.
When you really truncate words down to their most important meaning,
Right,
I think that's where some real power comes from. And those two words just describe it so perfectly, you
right,
know?
right.
So I want to push back on you because I know there's some skeptics watching and, I wouldn't be a good, attorney if I didn't, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wouldn't be doing my due diligence. So let's push back. Let's say, you know what, Tiffany, peace, love, happiness, rainbows, butterflies, that sounds great. But
Hmm.
we got to look at the bottom line.
Hmm.
We're a business. We're not a charity, right?
Hmm.
That's really nice.
Hmm.
But I gotta make payroll.
Hmm.
Is there an impact? Is there a financial monetary reason that businesses can get behind and why they need to invest in helping their teams and ensuring that their teams speak with purpose?
I think there's more harm done when it's not encouraged for their teams to speak with purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people like to just spew out information, just do randomness, and then you have to do all the what was the TV show that came out and she was the fixer in DC. Oh
Oh,
goodness,
man.
I can't think of the name of it, but
You're
it's a
asking
TV
somebody who
show.
never watches. Yeah, I would know it anyway.
But yeah, so it's easier to do it right the first time than have to go back and clean up a mess.
Yeah.
You know, give that extra 5 minutes, give that extra 30 days, give that extra few dollars or resources assigned in order to see how can we approach this the way that it should be approached versus having to go back and try to
Right.
correct.
I think you're exactly right. You're leaving way too many dollars on the table if you
Right,
don't get this right now.
right, right.
For a couple of reasons. I think one, it's going to impact your culture and
Right.
where everybody can get a job anywhere they want right now for an insane amount of money
Right.
in a global economy,
Right.
it's never been more important to realize that if you're not investing in your people, somebody else is very happy to. Yeah, someone else is very happy. And the cost of just losing, retraining, all of that, of your team alone is massive. And then when you start thinking about, you talked about understanding different cultures. It's not entirely altruistic. If you don't understand your client, their culture, what's important to them, how they're buying, how they want to consume, you cannot build products and solutions that are going to be meaningful to them.
You can.
So, again, your competitor is more than happy to check out what's important to them, to understand that data, to collect that data, and then build something that's better and that's going to put you out of business. I think this is not a nice to have anymore.
It's a
this
must.
is now, exactly. It is absolutely embedded in our societal expectations of organizations. It's just how it goes.
And that's the way it should be. For you to think that, because I made it, you're supposed to accept it and love it and, appreciate it. That's very cocky of us, and very intrusive. So it's kind of like, just think about, check yourself sometimes. How am I being considerate of this person that I'm making a product for? And then I'm going to get an attitude when they actually don't accept it, accept my gift.
I got a few folks and a few BUs we could call real quick,
Right.
We're on the other line now. Yeah. But I think you're exactly right. I think you're exactly right that there really is an expense. Again, this isn't something that, doesn't it feel good to talk about?
Exactly.
You're engaging in a different way with your clients. You're engaging in a different way with your teams. And you're developing and growing them in a way that's going to build a bond that surpasses, speeds and feeds.
Right.
And that's how you really get to business outcomes. That's how you really get to solving big problems.
That's it.
And that's how you get to unity, global unity. To your point, Intel and HP, I was going to say, are both working on, a project right now, a global project. And without, understanding what's going on around the world and what's important across different cultures, not sort of lumping them, I think they would miss the mark. I really do. And there'd be a lot of wasted investment. So I think you're spot on. Yeah.
Exactly. And just understand the voice that HP has as a company, the legacy that exists with it, known as the birthplace of Silicon Valley. There's some conversations we may need to go back and have, over our 80-year history, but the conversations going forward can be very exciting, can be extremely transformative. Not only for the Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, but then also for the world.
Right. Hey, you know what? This one of the key takeaways from me and just in our friendship has been you don't have to be perfect. There's space and grace. So look, if HP made a couple mistakes, as long as they're willing to make the space to fix it and actually take and execute the fix, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It's about that grace and about really reflecting and challenging yourself so that right now you're being intentional in making those changes,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know we're almost out of time. In fact, we're probably way over. Thank you, first of all.
Thank you.
Good for those of you watching. Yeah. Any guidance for people looking to start speaking with purpose? Do you have any resources or anything that you say, hey, check this out, or take this step today? Anything that we should be considering or looking at?
Speak with purpose. Take a look at your own surroundings. What's missing? What's missing, and what would you shift or change? And then if there's something missing, then what are you willing to do to ensure that it has a platform to be included not only in your own life, but in your community as well. So don't overthink it. I think overthinking things can get you just spinning wheels. I don't like spinning wheels. That's wasting time. Like I said, I don't know how many summers I got, but I'm gonna try to enjoy every one of them. Right. But yeah, just take a moment just to think about where you are and where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, thank you. You are an absolute light and a beacon of wisdom. I so appreciate your time and your insights. I can't wait to see what you do next. Please keep us posted. I love the work that you do, the person that you are, and what you stand for. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Sue. Bye-bye.